Alrighty, how's everybody doing today? Pretty good? So, out of curiosity, how many of you have used the internet before? Hopefully everybody. Now, keep your hands up if you actually know how the internet works or where it came from. Ooh, a couple of you. I'm actually surprised. Well, I was actually in a similar boat to most of you, and I didn't know this as well. But as a cybersecurity major, I felt that it was important that I share this with you and enlighten you. So, let's go through the agenda for today. So for today's agenda, we're going to be going over what is the internet and how does it work, the history behind the internet, and why the internet is important and where it is going. Hopefully this will clear up any concerns or confusions you all have. So what is the internet and how does it work? So I'm assuming most of you have access and use the internet, but just don't know the mechanics behind it. But usually when I hear the word internet, I think of a cloud. It's a really bad cloud, but that's not at all what it is. I like Barry Laner's quote on this. In his 2000s brief history of the internet, he said, "The internet is like a physical key that accesses a virtual treasure chest." And this quote has some truth to it. So let's take, for example, this line. And this is going to follow this diagram, but I'd rather draw it out because it's a little easier to explain. So let's say this line is the internet. And let's add a house with a computer inside of it, and let's add a school. And for each of these places, we'll give an address, and this will be known as the IP address. So usually it's a bunch of dots and numbers, and none of them are the same, which is very convenient, like a normal address. So as of right now, to reach the school, we need to get to the internet, and then the internet has to connect to the school. But since your home is a client and not a server, it cannot directly connect to the internet. So right now, we're going to need something called an ISP. So an ISP is an internet service provider. So some examples would be like Verizon, T-Mobile, Comcast. And from then on, you can connect to the ISP, to the internet, and to the school, and you can send whatever you need. And whatever information that you are sending usually travels in packets. So let's say we have a picture of a smiley face. So when you send it, it's like this. But as it goes through these wires and through the ISP and through the internet, it's actually split up into little packets. It's almost like a puzzle piece that's been unpuzzled. And then when it gets to the other part, right here, which is the school, it'll turn back into the smiley face without any lines. So now you might be wondering, this is pretty simple, right? Why does my Mason Wi-Fi suck? Well, there's a little bit more to it. So let me get rid of this real quick. Right now we'll have my dorm, which is Dominion at the Rappahannock deck. And there's probably about 100 kids in here. So we can't directly link all these straight to the ISP. It actually needs to go through a router to see where all the information needs to go. So right here, we're going to have a little router. And I like to think of router as like the HOA for communities. So if you think of this all as a neighborhood, the router tells you what to do, what you can't do, and where to go. So more or less, every website you go to, you'll probably go through about 10 to 15 routers since it has direct information. So let's say your buddy Joe in Dominion is ordering pizza and you're turning in your comm assignment. So what's to stop your assignment from just going back around? That's actually the router job. It adds another security layer to all the information that goes through it, so it knows where to go and doesn't end up where it doesn't want to. And the reason your Wi-Fi might be slow is if 40 people are trying to order pizza and there's multiple lines, you can already tell this picture's getting very jumbled. So multiple packets cause very slow processing, and that's eliminated through scheduling packets, and that's a whole other deal that I don't know a lot about as well, so we're not going to get into that. So now you know the basics of how the internet works. We're going to talk a little bit about the history behind it. So what is the history behind the internet? As can be expected for such a large piece of technology, it's not accredited to just one person, but rather a group of scientists, engineers, and programmers. Initially, the Department of Defense started up a project called ARPANET, which is a very simplistic version of what we know now as the internet. So if we go back to our example here, we basically just erase everything. And throw in another internet line, and this time we'll have two houses, which are also computers. And they were basically just directly connected. And that's all it was. That's all ARPANET was. And slowly, around 1969, oh, by the way, they also use packet switching, which is what I talked about earlier, about packaging small bits of data. But around 1969, we added 4 more computers to this for a total of 6. I'm not going to draw the rest, and slowly as time went on, we just kept adding more and more, and that's what we know as the internet, basically. So why is this important, and where is it going? So as you can tell, the internet proved to be a revolutionary and transformative piece of tech. It's made our lives so easy, and we have endless possibilities right at our fingertips. We can order pizza, clothes, you can even get a hitman at like some weird websites that I don't know about. In addition to that, we're also able to access massive databases of gold mines, with gold mines of knowledge. And given that the internet's not going to go around, or it's going to be around forever almost, this is knowledge that's always going to be there and train the next generation of kids and people. But now where are we moving? We're moving something new that we like to call the Internet of Things. And that's a really boring and mundane sounding word, but it's actually quite interesting. Do any of you guys have a smart home back at home? Nobody, really. Oh, one. Well, a smart home is basically what it seems like. It's just, your home is, all the boring things in your house are just connected to the internet. So light bulbs, coffee machines, timers. It's basically like, if you've ever seen that scary movie as a kid where the house is controlled by some monster, it's like that almost. And this is really interesting because it poses a lot of different possibilities to what could happen. But there's a lot of security issues as well, but we're not going to get into that today. Vint Cerf, in an interview with Silicon Valley in 2017, actually said that 70% of the world's population will have affordable and cheap internet access by 2017. Now, if you really think about that statistic, that's a crazy number. Given we have around about 8 to 9 billion people right now, 70% of the people having internet is a wild number. Although the internet's been around for as long as I can remember, and it's still baffling to think about how we got here today. Today, we went over what is the internet and how does it work. We went over the history behind the internet and why the internet is important and where it's going. And to end it all off, I'd like to end it with a quote by Vint Cerf, who is also coined as the father of the internet. The internet is a reflection of our society, and that mirror is going to be reflecting what we see. If we do not like what we see in the mirror, the problem is not to fix the mirror, but to fix society. And to take away from this quote, you can kind of see how he says the internet's going to be around forever, and we can't fix that, but we can fix ourselves. So we make it what we want it to be, and whatever the world wants it to be is what it's going to be.